your business? Like, how did it
It
change
was a
things?
wild, as everyone
Yeah,
knows,
it
wild
kinda
year.
changed everybody's everything. I
Yeah.
mean, businesses in general. I'm just curious how it
Yeah.
affected yours.
So I was very like fortunate in the sense. So going into COVID, I was actually saving to buy a house, and I'm pretty like I try to be very financially responsible. Like I want to put 20% down, and luckily I literally put an offer on a house, and then like one day later they're closing everything down for COVID. I'm like, oh god.
Yeah.
um, and luckily they didn't accept the offer. For whatever reason, I think it went under because that's at the time you could still do that.
Yeah.
Because I think my agent's like, well, things are getting weird in the market and it's been on for 2 months. Just,
Yeah, right on the low
go a little
ball on.
less.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they didn't accept it. And it was probably the best thing that ever happened because luckily I had that money to help finance the company.
Mhm.
And I didn't have to cut any employees and stuff during the time.
That's good.
So there was a couple weeks when like it was really dead because I was like, can we do real estate? Can we not? Even when it was
'Cause
like
we were
that
still
two
doing
week.
real estate. Yeah.
Yeah. It was like a 2 week period that felt like it was like real awkward. And then um real estate just boomed. I mean, we got swamped. I would say it's probably like 10 times. We started doing like 10 times the amount of real estate work during COVID. And it was everyone at the time before that point, 2020, video was like for the $1 million house or $1 million plus house. Like you didn't do it on a $300,000 house or
Right.
something. It was only the super high end houses. And then COVID happened. Like everyone has to have video. Like you have to have it if you're going to list it, and you need 360, and you need floor plans and all this stuff. So that really helped, and we did a ton. All of our weddings, luckily, I mean, there was a while we couldn't shoot any weddings, but we just rescheduled them for next year and stuff. So I had those deposits still, because we take a little deposit for every wedding.
Yeah.
So that helped finance the company. So yeah, I mean, overall, we actually went up in sales over 2020.
That's
Oh, that's
right.
I
awesome.
think it was like a 10% increase in sales,
Even
which
with the,
yeah,
I'm sure it was significantly less weddings. Right?
yeah.
You know.
Well, it's just like really people just froze. I mean, we did a lot of backyard weddings. Oh, and we started doing live streaming.
Oh,
So
Okay.
luckily, I had helped some companies out with live streaming in the past. I
like
did
live
have
streaming what?
weddings.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
and just like
Basically,
events. Yeah,
basically just have the bride and groom and the immediate family, and then
yeah,
live
in a
streaming that.
backyard.
Yeah.
It's like 5 people in a backyard, and we're live streaming it so all their friends and family
Oh,
around
that's
the
cool.
country can watch. So I started offering that. And that really boomed too. So that helped. And I even got like asked to be in a magazine and do like an interview about like live streaming weddings because it was like a kind of a newer concept.
Sure.
So I think that helped too. So I mean, we did a ton of live stream weddings that year.
Now, do they do live stream on YouTube or?
Yeah, we just
Okay.
streamed to YouTube and our website.
Okay, well,
So-
after this, we're gonna talk because we're having some issue. We've done a couple of live stream podcasts, and the last
Yeah.
one we did,
Really?
we had an issue.
Yeah, we do fight companions for our big MMA or big UFC fights.
Yeah,
So-
and
Oh,
we're
okay.
fans of the UFC, and a lot of the people we have on the podcast are fighters and stuff, and so we'll help put the UFC fights on, and we'll just like kind of talk about them while they're going on. And
Yeah.
the last one we did, it was we found out kind of during the process, and we're like, well, I guess
The audio is super
the
choppy.
audio was just like cutting in and out really really bad, and
From the live stream or
yeah.
from your.
it was
Or
just on the live stream.
And
It
like,
was
so
like
we were recording everything like this. So
Yeah.
we ended up going back and editing it out by putting this audio to it. But like during the live, it was really choppy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we definitely. Yeah, we take
I
a
don't
look.
know if
and
it was
stuff.
like a Wi-Fi connection or what, but
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, well, we can,
Yeah,
hash that out after this, just to see if you have any pointers for us.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, it was one little problem we've ran into, but
Well, and so going back to the business, it seems like you're very creative when it comes to adapting to certain situations.
Oh, yeah.
What are some other things that you've done with your business in terms of the wedding shooting, like adding anything else to that aspect of it, or with real estate photography, you mentioned of adding the videos to it, and then like the 3D stuff. Do you do any of the 3D stuff like that too, or?
Yeah, a lot of it's more like floor plans and like
Gotcha.
360. I mean, 360 was everyone was doing that during COVID.
Right. It was almost like you had to.
and I feel like Zillow launched something then, and they're
Mhm.
like super pushing it. If you did a 360, like ranked it up in Zillow, I think.
yeah, they still do
Um,
that.
Yeah, so it doesn't seem like very popular now. I don't have many agents asking me about it
No.
now.
Well, because it's very. I think the way Zillow does it, if I'm not mistaken, you have to be a selected agent in a certain area. I think they only do a certain amount of. At least that's the way it's been described to me.
Mm.
That they only do like a certain amount of agents per market that they allow that for now. I think so. It makes those
Interesting.
listings stand out more. So I guess it's more like
Yeah.
desirable to be a Zillow Premier agent or whatever it
Okay.
is. I don't know.
That's
It's
probably
been
why.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been fine. I've done it a couple times, and it's, I don't necessarily know if it helps that much, but, if I'm always just thinking like, "Oh, what's a couple," it's obviously more costs associated with it with, paying for the 360 videos and then paying for the Zillow Premiere and stuff, but, for some of those higher end listings that you just kinda really wanna make sure that it goes well, I'm like, I'll put the extra money toward it.
Yeah.
And
I think it's tough with the 360 though, because you see everything, like
yes.
everything, and then, like, so it's like, okay, you have to make sure the house is perfection.
Yeah.
Because that's like, as sometimes people want it. I'm like, okay, well, like one house I shot was like $1 million house. Their dining room at the time they had me come out there to shoot it. It was like they had a huge
Chandelier.
like they ripped off a painting off the wall or something, and it was like the walls all messed up. I'm like, I can't fix this in a 360 tour. Like it's not.
Right, you can't edit
That's
that out.
no. So, so they could see all that, and you can't just not have the dining room or whatever in the, you
On
know.
the tour.
So
Right.
I think, and also I think honestly, and maybe it's not the best thing, but a lot of agents like to control what people see in the house,
Of
like with
course.
video. That's a nice thing is we're showing the highlights. We're showing the best parts of the house. In which, I mean, if you're gonna buy a house, you're gonna go see it, so you're gonna want to see all the rooms then.
Yeah,
So
it's just I always say the photos are just kind of like the yeah, like you said, the highlights. It's like the advertisement to get someone in there.
yeah,
It's like very few people, I've helped a couple people buy it, buy houses that they've never walked through before.
yeah,
But which is I always
Usually
make
investors.
Which is
yeah, it's
wild.
usually investors.
But yeah.
Usually investors. But it's just it is always kind of nerve wracking when they finally go into it for the first time. Like, well, hope you like it, because we've made it pretty far into this transaction, and if you don't like it at this point, like, yeesh,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
But
What about on the wedding side of things? How did you? What have you
Yeah.
done to adapt and or add other services?
Yeah. So the last couple of years, like our goal is like I'm pretty happy what we offer. It's just like add-ons. So like like real estate photography. Now we do floor plans. We got into 360 tours. We do like I have a huge demand now for like property lines and stuff. So we like added that to our packages. And like people want to put like the square footage and like acres and stuff on that. Um, we have like wedding wise. I'm never going to do wedding photography. I've done a couple weddings as a photographer. It's just not my thing.
Mhm.
And also like we have so many wedding photographers that recommend us. I don't want to compete against them. So we just offered like last year we launched. Well, actually 2 years ago I launched a photo booth side of the company. So
That's cool.
now we do photo booths with weddings, and also we use them for a lot of events. And I find it just be as a good way as a sponsorship thing. Like a lot of nonprofits, I just donate our photo booth and it has Metrospec's name on it
yeah,
and just helps get the name out. And then we also just brought on a DJ, so now we can do DJing at weddings and
oh, cool.
corporate events and stuff. It was just the guy that actually DJ'd my wedding. Left the company he was working for. I'm like, let's work together. So we kind of partnered up, and so we've been offering packages and stuff. It's starting to get some like motion on that. So, but that's like brand new. We just have like launched it a couple months ago. So
No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Talk to me about the tripod method.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I know it's like really corny, but I always say like I believe in like the tripod method of business, which I kind of just made it up. But to me, I just think of like when you have a tripod, maybe not these tripods, but
Talking about our shitty tripods.
No.
Jason comes in scoping out our equipment like, oh, these guys,
Yeah.
fucking amateurs.
Cut rate
They're great for you
podcasters.
guys. But yeah, so like you've seen a monopod. It's one
Yeah.
leg. If you let go of it, it's gonna fall over.
Right.
So I like tripod because it's 3 legs. So I always like see Metrospec as like a tripod with 3 legs of the company. It's weddings, real estate, and I say corporate work. Which corporate, I just say corporate, but it's commercial, small businesses. It's just all summed up in one word. So yeah. And I kind of think like once I did that and diversified the company, because if I just did weddings and during COVID, I probably would have gone bankrupt.
Mhm.
Or I wish at least I would have let my employee go. If I just did real estate at times, I wouldn't be making that much of a profit. So, and the corporate stuff is really hard to get. So it's all together, like mix these three together. It's a really good balance. And like in the winter right now, like, well, January, like there wasn't a ton of real estate stuff because especially in St. Louis of all that ice storm we had,
Yeah.
like everyone kept pushing stuff off. So like real estate shoots got pushed back. this week.
Yeah,
I've
I'm
been
sure
super busy this
you
week.
guys have
So yeah, and then so that was okay because we leaned on our corporate work because they still needed content videos, they still needed other things. So and we still have the weddings we're editing right now from like December and stuff like that. And weddings are slow during the winter. Believe it or not, a ton of people don't get married in February and January. You know,
Yeah.
Hmm.
it's cold.
in Missouri.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So once March gets back, we're gonna be swamped again with a ton of weddings. So
You got a bunch on the books.
yeah. So I do think this will be the first year we'll probably actually decline in weddings for the first time. But I mean, that's actually just like the whole market in general. I think everyone's bookings are down the last 2 years, which I'm proud to say last year we actually went up. We did 8 more weddings than we did the year before, which I don't know of any wedding videography companies, at least in St. Louis, that actually did more
Wow.
last year. So it is starting to decrease a little bit. And I think it's a balancing thing. It's just like COVID was a huge wave. Everybody had to have video and stuff. So it's a little bit of that. And I think the economy, like people are just like, it's not always a priority to get wedding
Mm.
videography. So it's slowed down a little bit. So
At what point in the process when you're wedding planning should somebody reach out to a videographer? I mean, I know like you're booking the spaces years in advance,
yeah.
things like that. You're setting your date. Like if you were to recommend a bride and future bride or the brides and grooms, when do you recommend them reaching out to you
Yeah.
to get you on the books for videography?
I mean, I'd say number one at the beginning, but I would definitely say you need to do it after you book your venue. So if you had to, like, if you really need a precise like way to do it, I would do your venue first, in the church. You got to make sure they both work on the same day.
Mhm.
If you're getting married in church or outside or whatever, and then you need to book your photographer and videographer. Um, but you kind of want to coordinate with all three of them if you really know like a videographer you want or a photographer you want, because maybe
They might
they're
have another
available.
shoot.
Yeah, but the venue's not available or vice versa. So it's kind of a balancing act. But typically, I'd say book the
The
venue
sooner the
first.
better.
Yeah, sooner the better. But we have a lot of people last minute. Someone gifts, money and like, oh, they wanted videography, but they couldn't afford it, so they hired us like a month out. I don't know what happened last year. We had like 4 weddings where the videographers like didn't like canceled on them or like disappeared. Like there's some scam artists. I'm like, well, yeah, you have to be careful who you hire. If someone's like charging a couple $100 for a wedding video, they're probably not legit. so,
Right.
so I don't know if that was the case, but we had so many people. I had one person like they actually like broke their ankles, a wedding videographer. They reached out to us and asked me to shoot their wedding for them. We helped them out, which I think is nice about Metrospect. And the reason why I have employees is like, what if I get sick? What
Mhm.
if I break my arm and I can't shoot a wedding? I mean, I would still be there, but
Right.
He'd be
and I have
in
been.
a sling holding
Yeah.
the camera or something.
I mean, I'm that type of person. I will be there, but stuff happens. So it's like that's why I have employees. I have a team. Because it's like like what if Zach hired me to shoot his real estate photos and I was planning on being there, but I got sick that day.
Right.
And that's a problem with like one person teams. I mean, you have to start out that way.
Mhm.
But I think that's like an advantage I have with my company because I wouldn't say we're massive, like a big company or anything, but we're also like we're not just a one person band.
Gotcha.
Um,
So how many weddings do you already have booked out for this year?
I think we're at 50.
Okay.
So
That's
yeah,
incredible.
so about a little less than half of what we had last year, but that's pretty
Normal.
normal.
For
So
this time of the year.
yeah.
I'm sure some more will roll in for
oh
sure.
yeah, like I said, typically, I mean, people probably book about 2 or 3 months out in advance, typically. So
Well, yeah, I mean, but it probably makes it easy for budgeting and making sure, like, hey, this is where we're at. This is what revenue we're going to have coming in the future, because it's not like they're canceling their videographers very
Yes.
often, right?
no,
Right.
every
So,
once in a while I'll get a couple that breaks up or something, but no. And even like I had one couple, she hired us. They broke up, the couple, and she got married like 2 years later and hired us again.
Yeah.
And I actually transferred her deposit because I told them like, well, I'm really sorry, but we don't refund deposits. Like,
Yeah.
and that's just like a standard practice.
mhm.
But I will transfer it. So if they get married later on down the road, it's
Yeah.
theirs.
Call
So
me. Yeah.
yeah,
The same
so,
people that they broke up and then got back
different.
together.
She met a different guy.
Oh, gotcha.
So-
Same chick, different guy.
Yeah.
Yes. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Like, but I was like, it seemed like a much better relationship. So I'm like, good for you. so,
You never just see weddings. You're like, yeah, I don't think these people are going to make it.
uh, you see it, you don't say it.
Well, obviously.
Yeah.
Sure. It's not something you want to say to someone. Yeah.
Yeah. I always hope the best, but
For sure.
sometimes you're worried. Yes.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I've been to some weddings before, and it's like, oh, I knew you guys as a as a couple, just as boyfriend girlfriend. You guys fought a lot, so it's like, hope you guys can make it, kind
Yeah.
of thing.
And I feel like, you guys know weddings and stuff like that's like kind of like that's a stressful day sometimes. Doesn't need to be, but sometimes
Oh,
it
it always
is.
is.
Yeah.
At least in my experience, it
Yeah.
always seems to be somebody that always seems to be stressed out. Either usually the bride,
Yeah. Or the mother of the bride.
mother of the bride. Yeah,
Yeah.
that too.
People say like you have issues with bridezillas. Really, no.
Really?
It's really the moms. Yeah.
Really?
So, and luckily with video, a lot of people don't know video. So like, I don't know, it's not as bad. I feel like they're more momzillas, or you want to call them, to the photographer, which is nice for us.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
Make sure
'cause
you
guys
get
are,
the shot.
because you
Yeah.
guys can cut. I mean, obviously, if you're doing a lot of cuts and a lot of, you cut out a lot more stuff than you can with photos, I would imagine.
Yeah. I mean, photos, I mean, I definitely feel like they can hide stuff a lot easier. We can have
Well,
Photoshop.
yeah, that's
I mean,
true.
technically we can, but it is very difficult.
Sure.
Do you do a
So,
lot of drone footage and stuff like that for
oh
weddings
yeah.
now?
hmm
Yeah.
It's pretty much every wedding.
Yeah.
So yeah, I always tell people I actually don't charge for it
Okay.
because I can't control the weather and I can't control like, FAA restrictions and stuff. So I don't want to promise. I'm strongly, if I promise you something, 100%, I'm going to get you that. So I always tell them like it's 98% of the time we can get that drone up in the air, we can fly it. But if it's super windy or something, the videographer doesn't feel it's safe to fly, I tell them don't fly because we're not going to hurt someone just for a drone shot.
Right,
For what?
because don't they have to get like certified? Like there's
Yeah.
special certifications and
Yes.
like FAA certifications to fly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all have to do that. So it's a lot.
Now, what are some of the FAA restrictions? And like, is it just
So like
certain
you
areas?
can't fly by an airport and stuff like that. There's a couple places downtown with like, especially real estate too is an issue. And there's like helicopter pads downtown. Like I know like that apartment building next to Barnes. I don't think you can't fly over there. So, yeah, it's always like sometimes we'll shoot houses and they're near an airfield. I actually shot a wedding at an airport. I was like, well, just so you know, I can't fly the
Yeah,
drone.
you definitely can't do the
An
the
active
drone.
airport.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah,
That's
those
an
were-
interesting location for
For a wedding. Yeah, you wouldn't
Yeah.
think.
And it was a small town. They
Yeah.
had like it was like a mid America like vibe airport. Like it wasn't so tiny, but it wasn't like
Right.
St. Louis International Airport or anything. And it was actually nice. They had like a nice lobby area and they used it for the ceremony.
Huh.
So
Huh.
yeah.
Cool.
What's been one of your favorite venues that you've been to for a wedding here in St. Louis?
Well, I would say probably. I mean, there's a lot of great venues, but I'm biased
Okay.
because I got married in Union Station.
I was gonna say
That's
that's
Yeah. So I love it there. I love that the light shows included and stuff. And I love architecture and like the old vibe. And like to me, it was extra special. So like my dad passed away 7 years ago, and he was a huge like Lionel train buff and like love collecting. It was really cool to get married in like a train station.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So
that's kind of one of those spots where I always thought like if I do get married and have an actual wedding, that's where it would be.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
It's
that's cool.
beautiful.
Yeah.
But there's a ton of great venues in St. Louis, and it's you can get the barn vibe, you can get the historic like classy vibe, you can get something modern and sleek. It's nice. There's a lot of good options here.
For
So,
sure.